In the Ten Commandments, the sixth commandment is, thou shalt not kill. Unfortunately, today, a lot of Christians out there think this is a suggestion, not a commandment. Ever since 1973, when Roe versus Wade was brought to our attention, the question of when does life begin seems to come to a lot of minds. We're going to start today by answering this question. In Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, God tells the prophet Jeremiah, "Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations." So God is telling Jeremiah, I knew you before you were even born. And if you really want to get into this, think about when Jesus gave his life on the cross. Doesn't the Bible tell us that he knew our names? Come on now, let's be honest here. Former Surgeon General Dr. Everett C. Koop tells us that life begins at conception. He states all it takes to create a human life is an egg and a sperm, nothing else. Let's take a look at Exodus chapter 21, verse 22. "If men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished according to the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay the judge as the judges determine." What this is telling us is, let me give you an example. Two men are fighting, and there's a woman with child, a pregnant woman standing nearby. And one of the men pushes the other man into the woman, and she has a premature baby. If that baby is okay, then that man will be fined. Now, reading on to verse 23, "And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life." There, God is telling us that if that man bumps into that pregnant woman and she miscarriages and loses the baby, then thou shalt give life for life. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Let's go into a little bit of scientific facts on babies. Did you know that at 18 days after conception, a baby's heart is beating? Mm-hmm. At 6 weeks, brain waves can be measured. At 8 weeks, vital organs are functioning and fingerprints have formed. At 9 weeks, that's 2 months and 1 week, a baby can feel pain. Now, I want to stop there. When I was researching this, I had a lot of emotions. I cried, I showed anger, And when I come to this, at 9 weeks, a baby can feel pain. And I have seen pictures of discarded babies, pictures of abortions. At 9 weeks, they will tear a baby limb from limb while in the womb. A little baby inside the womb having his or her leg torn off of their body, an arm torn off. And you know it really hurts? Over 700,000 abortions are performed after this point of pregnancy. After 8 weeks, the baby has begun to look human. At 11 weeks, the baby can breathe, of course, the amniotic fluid. The baby swallows, digests, sleeps, dreams, wakes, tastes, and feels pain. Another statistic that you might not know is every 29 seconds an abortion is performed. Just me standing here talking these few minutes, many abortions, many murders have been committed. That's about 137 lives an hour, or 3,300 murders a day. And our Supreme Court, who thinks they're the supreme beings, legalize it. Statistically, 1 out of 3 human beings will be murdered by abortion. Now, it seems as if people have bought into the lie that since we're murdering them, they're not human. They're not real people. This is the same old lie that they used back in the days of slavery to keep slavery legal. In World War II, when we were fighting the Japanese were taught that Americans were lower than dogs. We were nothing as far as the Japanese goes. So as far as killing us, when a pilot would jump out of an airplane that was shot down, a Japanese pilot would actually come down and strafe that pilot while the pilot was floating down in his parachute. That is how they thought of us. Do I need to remind you of a man called Hitler? Yeah, Hitler. He wanted to improve the human race. I want to improve the human race too. I want to bring everybody to Jesus so we can have such a family reunion when we get to heaven. But Satan is fighting against us. You know, you may wonder, well, what's that got to do with me, Pastor? What can I do about it? Let's see what God says about that question. In Genesis 4:9, the Bible says, "And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper?" In verse 10, "And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground." Okay, we're going to stop right there because the Lord impressed on me on something. Babies are our brothers and sisters in Jesus. When a baby is born and a baby dies, their soul goes to heaven. They don't have to worry about atonement. So, that would make them brothers and sisters in Christ. So, let me ask you this. Are we our brother's keeper? With all the blood that has been spilled, thanks to abortion, don't you think the earth is crying out for our brothers and sisters?
Mm-hmm.
Verse 11, and now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. Planned Parenthood, pro-choice, I hope you see this. Because you are nothing but worshipers of Satan. You are murdering vile. And I'm going to do my best to let everybody know how terrible you really are. The Bible tells us in Proverbs chapter 24, verse 11, if thou forbear to deliver them that are drawn unto death, and those that are ready to be slain, if thou sayest, behold, we knew it not, doth he not he that pondereth the heart consider it? And he that keepeth thy soul, doth not he know it? And shall not he render to every man according to his works? Here we are told to rescue those being led to death. So if we just stand by, God knows our heart. God knows our heart. So if we're sitting there and we're watching a minister preaching on abortion, and we say, well, you know what, there's nothing I can do about it, so, I'm going to go. No, God knows your heart. There is something when's the last time you prayed for our babies being murdered? When's the last time that you asked God to save these innocent lives? You see, evil prevails when good people, in the name of freedom, do nothing. That's what it tells us in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 16. It says, we are told to live as free men, but do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil. So I don't want to hear somebody saying, well, you know what, there's really nothing I can do about it. God will judge these people in the end, and He'll give them their just punishment. Yes. Yes, He will. But what if through organized petitioning, what if by talking to a representative, what if by prayer, which is the most powerful weapon we have, we get to save one life? What if we go to heaven and that one life walks up and says, thank you? Am I stretching a little bit? I don't think so. I have some statistics on why women get abortions. I also have an answer. 74% say having a baby would interfere with work, school, or other responsibilities. Wow. And where do they have time for sex? 73% say they cannot afford to have a child. Well, then why are they taking a chance by having sex? And I grant you, a lot of this sexual activity is fornication. Remember that word, pastors? Fornication, having sex before they get married. Something pastors like you out there in computer land need to start telling their congregations. Or less than 2% say they became pregnant as a result of rape or incest. My heart goes out to those that were raped by a stranger or by incest, because incest is a form of rape. But why convict and sentence the baby for something this child has nothing to do with? There are adoption agencies out there. There are people. My wife and I can't have children. We would love to have children. But the adoption regulations are so strict. Unless you got lots of money, making a real good living, you can basically forget about it. I'm not complaining that we don't have children. As a matter of fact, in the world today, my personal opinion, I don't want to bring children into the world today. But I don't want to kill them while they're on their way in. So all these reasons why women get abortions, they don't stand up to God. If you don't want to get pregnant, close your legs, cross your legs. Men, keep it in your pants.
Amen.
Don't make an innocent baby suffer because of your sexual preferences, because of your sexual desires. Something else I want to talk to you about, it's a little bit off the wall, but it's the gospel truth. I want to mention about sacrificing. Abortion is actually sacrificing a baby to an idol or demon.
Come on.
First, what's an idol? Okay? An idol is anything we worship before God, right? An idol is anything that we put before God. Today, children are sacrificed to the idols of selfishness. You know, oh, I just want to party my life away. I don't want any responsibilities. Or how about the idol of convenience? Oh, I don't want to be held down by a baby. How about freedom? Yes, freedom can be an idol. Someone might say, I can party hardy at the drop of a hat. Oh yes, I am so free. Incidentally, a lot of these abortions are because these partygoers got pregnant after they partook of the wine and drinks of the party and decided to have sexual intercourse. Let's talk about ambition. Oh, that really gets to me, I tell you. Ambition. Oh yeah, oh man, I'm pregnant. But, I can't let the office know I'm up for this big promotion, and if I'm pregnant, they're going to pass me over for this promotion. So what? Is that worth the life of a little innocent baby? You should have thought about that before you got under the covers with your boss, your boyfriend, even your husband. If you're not ready for a baby, why take a chance and make it? Now, the last but not least that I have on my list is money. Oh yeah, the money the people worship today. And of course, I'm talking about Planned Parenthood. Let's talk about Planned Parenthood for a moment. Planned Parenthood. How does that tie in with killing babies and having all these abortions? Planned Parenthood? Actually, I would call it irresponsible murder. But remember these demons that I mentioned? Babies are sacrificed to the very demonic powers that are behind idols like these. We need to stand up for these innocent children. Don't blow it off, because if you do, you are just as guilty as the abortionists themselves. We need to get out and vote. Now, as a pastor, I am not going to stand up here and tell you who to vote for, although I would love to. You need to know the parties, what they stand for, what their history is. We need to let our representatives know how we feel. We need to start raising our voice like we used to. Do you remember back in the 40s and 50s, for those that are older, and even somewhat in the 60s, we used to point at somebody and say, do you know what? You need to get right with God or you will burn in hell forever. I can remember back when I was a kid, back in 19 Forgotten, we used to have a slogan, one way. Jesus. Because Jesus is our one way to heaven. Something we need to pray for is ourselves. Prayer is a big weapon for abortion, or to fight abortion. We need to pray that God assists us in moving our anger and our hatred. Our hatred for this abomination. We need to ask God for strength so that we can pray for these people. Not only for the innocent children that are murdered, but we need to pray for the mothers that went along with the abortion. We need to pray for people like Planned Parenthood, because there have been people that worked there that actually turned their life around. We need to pray for these, they call themselves pro-choice. I call them pro-abortionists. Because if you're not for abortion, you're against it, right? Well, pro-choice gives the woman the right to choose abortion or not. In closing, we all need to pray for everybody involved. And one thing I need, very important, something that Jesus has to remind me of every day. We need to love the sinner and hate the sin. And until next time, may God bless and keep you and yours.